Hey, everybody, it's me, Ken Heckenlively, back with another episode of Twice as Lively. And because I am recording this at 1 in the afternoon, I have some wonderful Pete's Coffee because they are generally open until 6 o'clock at night in my area. So, as always, we begin our show with a simultaneous sip. I like coffee, specifically cafe americano with a little bit of honey and a little bit of whole milk. But you can get your own beverage of choice. Since it is a Sunday, that also means that technically you are allowed to have a mimosa, which is some orange juice with some champagne in it. You could have that, and it would not be a social faux pas. I'm not quite sure if on Sunday the rules are relaxed for all alcohol, but we are a nation of freedom. So you are free to pick the beverage of your choice. I may have my opinions on your beverage of choice, but that should not stop you from doing what you want. So now, hopefully, you've gotten your beverage of choice, and we will do our simultaneous sip. Get ready for it. Here it comes. So good. I do love that caffeine rush that you get from a cafe Americano because now America is 250 years old and looking better than ever. And that reminds me, I keep meaning to say, have you lost some weight? Have you been working out? Because you're looking really good. Maybe you've changed your wardrobe. Maybe you've changed your hair. But you are really doing a great job on your summer makeover. So, whatever you're doing, keep it up because it's looking good. All right. So, the title of my episode today is Transitions, because as you know, this is July 5th, but it was only on June 5th, 1 month ago today, that I went to my classroom for the very last time. I spent about 3 or 4 hours cleaning it out, tidying it up for the next person to take over my room, if somebody will take over my room, because the school that I left was having declining enrollment. So it wasn't really certain whether they would actually be replacing my position or using my room. But even with all that said, I felt like just for my own peace of mind, I had to leave my room in the best shape possible. But I will say that it was with a little bit of sadness that I turned my key in, I did the final sign outs, and then I got in my car and drove away from the beloved school where I had taught for the past 17 years. But it made me think about transitions. And we all have transitions in our lives. And the question is, how do we deal with them? So, in the month that I have left my previous profession of teaching to go full time into podcasting and book writing, I thought it was maybe a good opportunity to review what I've been doing. Well, as those of you who are listening to this broadcast know, I started podcasting. Now, I started in the month of May doing a couple sample episodes, but since I started, I have now done 33 episodes. This is episode number 34. In that time, I think I've got a number of other shorts. I think I'm somewhere around over 100 little shorts, and those are interesting because I'm starting to see what people enjoy listening to. I'm finding that many of you like it when I tell stories from history, like when I talked about the Gettysburg campaign and how the Union general should have pursued Lee's army, because if he had, it's very likely that the Civil War would have ended in July of 1863 rather than in April of 1965. What other things have I done with that month into my new transition? Well, it's a little bit embarrassing to say, but even though I've been taking Muay Thai training with my wonderful trainer, Eddie Silky Smooth Abasolo, for about 3 years, I have been too nervous to go into an actual Muay Thai class and work out with other people. Kind of goes back to the fact that when I was a kid, I was just terrible at sports. My older brother Jay was gifted in sports. I remember when he was on swim team, he had hundreds of first place ribbons. And similarly in baseball and little league, he was like a pitcher. He played high school football and he played so many different positions. He was a kicker. He was a guard. Sometimes he'd even be quarterback. And, he was just like the ultimate stud. So remember, my brother, hundreds of first place swimming ribbons, right? I did swim team for 2 years. I had one seventh place ribbon. And I think that's because my opponent, the one who got eighth in that race, I think the reason I beat him is I think he suffered a cramp because he ate too quickly before going into the race. Because remember, boys and girls, you're not supposed to swim for 15 minutes after you eat because you will supposedly get a cramp. So yes, I was always the person picked last for any sports game. But I will have you know that I was always enthusiastic and in 3 different sports between high school and college. Yes, I was a college athlete because I tried out and was on the school's crew team for 3 years because anybody who tried out for crew, they let me on the team. That's the advantage of going to a small liberal arts college is you can do anything you want. So, but I got 3 in 3 different sports. I got some version of coaches award. And so I got that in golf, I got that in wrestling, and I got it in crew. What that means is the coaches award or the most inspirational award is always given to the kid who really sucks. That was me. But who always shows up with a cheerful demeanor. That was also me. The kid who also works really hard. That was me. Okay, so you want one of my most embarrassing stories? So actually, I have to say this because this is one of those stories about sports where I don't really suck. So remember, my brother was a stud, still is, but he was 3 years ahead of me in school. And so after he graduated from high school, as my sophomore year, and I decided to go out for the De La Salle football team. Now, for those of you who know De La Salle, you know that it is a powerhouse. Well, not when I played for them. When I played for them, we sucked. Okay, so I could do well on a team that, otherwise sucks. But one of the things that I realized in terms of when I played in my sophomore year of high school JV football for De La Salle is that I was actually pretty fast. There was one kid who was faster than me. His name was John White. We called him Johnny White Shoes White because there was a Johnny White Shoes Johnson then who was a sports star. So when we would do our long runs, John White was always way ahead of everybody. Then there was me, and then there was the rest of the pack. So this one day we were playing, and it was very hot. I think it was like 105 degrees, and we were moving kind of slow, and the coach was getting mad at us. And the coach got so mad at us that he didn't give us our water break that day, which was a bad decision by that coach. So, what did Kent do at the end of practice when they had us run a couple times around the track? Yes, that's right. I always had to be behind John White. And so, in full pads, because that was another part of our punishment, we ran, I think it was, about, as I recall, it was about 2 miles. And so we finished, and then I got across the finish line and I sat down and I started having a heat stroke, which, for those of you who've ever had a heat stroke, just results in you going blank. Yes, I actually also got violent at one point. I slugged the coach. I'm sorry, coach. I didn't mean to slug you. I was out of my mind. And then I had a very scary instance of amnesia for about 20 minutes, in which I did not know who the Heckenlively I was. So, very, very strange things. But so that is what has happened. I guess the message of that is maybe I wasn't so bad. Maybe with a little bit of effort, I could have obtained more success. But that gets me back to my Muay Thai story. So, for the 2 or 3 years that I've been taking Muay Thai, I've been too nervous to go to a class. But I just decided that, okay, since I'm leaving teaching, let me really overcome that fear. Let me do something different in this transition period of my life. And so I decided to start taking some Muay Thai classes. So I think I've taken 5 classes. And this last class was pretty much the funniest. Okay, so there's usually like 8 to 10 people in the class, and they pair you up, and then you engage a number of drills. Usually you start with jump roping, then you do some shadow boxing, and then after the jump roping and shadow boxing, you do kind of slap fighting. So that means you're kind of like this, and then you're tapping, and you're tapping on the shoulder and the chest and the body, and here I am, a 63-year-old guy, and I'm slap fighting with a 17-year-old. And I just have to say, there was a part of me which was just laughing my ass off about this, because I'm like, what the hell am I doing? A 63-year-old slap fighting with a 17-year-old. But I got to tell you, it was pretty fun slap fighting with a 17-year-old. And in fact, as I'm slap fighting with him, I'm noticing exactly how he moves, what his go-to tap slaps are, and I'm countering him, and I'm actually saying, I'm really having fun slap fighting this 17-year-old. And so it just goes to show you that you should always be trying new things, because I'm getting to that age where there are people who are a few years older than me, and I'm hearing them say things that I never want to hear from anybody within 20 years of my age, which I'm hearing things like, I'm realizing that sometimes I don't like to walk a long way. I'm saying to myself, no, especially as you get older, don't do stuff like that. What you should do is you should be being more active as you get older. So I encourage you, do things that scare you. Do things like learn podcasting. Do things like take Muay Thai classes. Do things like slap fight a 17-year-old and see if you can beat him, or at least not embarrass yourself. It's also really fun because for the first time in my life, I'm learning to hold pads. And let me tell you, if you have never held pads before, well, first of all, it'll scare the living shit out of you. And then then you start going, oh, okay, I can get this. I can hold pads. This is pretty cool. And then you start noticing, he doesn't punch very hard. Well, his kicks are really good. And it was kind of fun because, I introduced myself to him. I said, okay, how old are you? He's like 17 years old. And I'm like, what's your name? And he's like, Gotham. I'm like, who's named Gotham? But, my name is Kent. So I said, okay, Gotham, you're Batman. I'm Kent. I'm Superman. Okay, we're doing a Batman versus Superman thing here. And we really had a lot of fun. Gotham was a great kid, and I enjoyed slap fighting with him. I enjoyed holding pads for him. And, actually, what was kind of fun is Gotham had a really nice kick. I mean, it when that kick hit the pad, it hit it hard. But I have to say, I hit pretty hard too. I noticed my punches were doing more to Gotham than his punches were doing to me. So Gotham had the edge in kicks, but I had the edge in punches. So, it's just kind of fun to discover these things about yourself. So I encourage you, especially as you get older, try things that scare you. Make transitions. Try new things. Speaking of trying new things, I think whenever we do something new, we are very nervous about it. We're constantly asking ourselves, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? So, one of the things that I've done is I've rented some office space in this wonderful little town, which is right next to the town where I live. I don't want to say the name because, I'm really popular and I just don't want the paparazzi coming here. But one of the things that you may not know is that I have a daughter with very severe autism. And one of the things that I do want to cover in my show is that there are certain types of autism that are talked about. The quirky kind of autism, oh, your kid's probably going to work at Google. And then there's the type of autism that my daughter has, which is really severe, which does not get talked about much in the media. In fact, I would say that the severe autism population is dramatically underrepresented in our media. And part of the things that I want to do in this show is talk about some of those challenges, and not just to, get greater awareness. Let's solve the damn problem of autism, okay? But until my daughter was about 24 years old, she was completely nonverbal. And she still remains nonverbal, but she communicates by use of a letterboard. And other challenges that she has is she still does not have very control over her body. She does walk by herself, but she is unsteady. She needs help using the bathroom. But with all of these disabilities, it is very clear that she is cognitively intact. That means her brain functions just the way your brain functions and my brain functions. It's just the connection between her brain and her lips for speaking or for doing a lot of physical things is not connected the way it is for you and me. So it was really great when we made the breakthrough to communication. I mean, can you imagine being 24 years old and you can have never spoken to people? You have never communicated what you need or want or what you think. And so it's really been just sort of a wonderful thing. My daughter's 27 years old now, that now with her letterboard, she can communicate. And so on Friday, she had written in her session that for the 4th of July, she wanted to have some barbecue chicken, and then she wanted to go to a fireworks show because she'd never been to a fireworks show. And the reason that we have not done these things is because oftentimes she'll tantrum, and it makes it very difficult to take her out in public. But so on July 3rd, my daughter writes, I want barbecue chicken for the 4th of July, and I want to go to a fireworks show. So lo and behold, there I am. And I'm thinking to myself, how do I make that happen? Well, I figured out that I know the good barbecue place in my town. So I was like, oh, okay, so we'll go there and hopefully she won't tantrum. So we went there on Saturday night. It was great. She did not have her barbecue chicken, but she sat there while my wife and I had our barbecue. And then we went home and fed her as we usually do at home. But then I was thinking to myself, damn, how do I get this kid who has mobility problems and, can easily get overstimulated? How do I take her to a fireworks show? And so then it struck me, this office that I'm in right now is on the second floor of a building. And outside there's a large balcony, and the balcony actually points to the Alameda County Fair, which is where they had a large fireworks show. So I'm thinking to myself, really? Can I make this work? For reasons completely unrelated, got this office space, which would be perfect for what my daughter just asked. And so I go home and I tell my wife, and of course she's like, "I'm really, honey, you think that can work?" And I'm like, yeah, I think I can work. She's got a number of things that she usually likes. For example, she just doesn't want to stand somewhere. She'd like a chair. Well, the chair I have is exactly the kind that she likes. And so I said, yeah, I think I can put all this together. The show starts at 9:30. I think we can kind of sneak in. They're parking right here. So we come here last night and everything works perfectly. And we literally get onto the balcony. I get the chair for my daughter, so she's sitting down because she doesn't, she gets fatigued if she's standing for too long. And within 2 or 3 minutes of us being there, lo and behold, the fireworks show begins. It goes on for 15 minutes. She just loves it. She's laughing there. She usually has a little electric cord that she likes to play with her hands. And I was just thinking to myself, God, this is just amazing. This is one of those, coincidences of life that, I often talk of as God tapping you on the shoulder, meaning that, yeah, this is what we're meant to do. You, Kent, were meant to rent this office space, knowing that you rented it just because it met your needs, but lo and behold, it meets your daughter's needs. And so I was just thinking about, that's the interesting thing about transitions is we go into things and we're very nervous about it. We're scared that we're doing the wrong thing. And what we're always looking for is we're looking for those little taps on the shoulder from God, the universe, or whatever you believe in that says, yeah, this is a good thing to do. So, my transitions, this thing that we're doing right here, this podcasting thing, I had no idea whether this would work or not. What's been interesting is, my analytics tell me that I've had 14,000 views by this time. So to me, that's a little tap on the shoulder. Within 1 month, I've gotten 14,000 people to pay attention to me. That's kind of nice. And, what happens is everything starts to build on itself. Because what I'd really wanted to do is I'd really wanted to develop the capacity to do a show like this. And it seems like I'm getting that. It's become pretty clear to me that I can do this fairly easily for 6 days a week. And, you just get better at things the more you do it. So I'm really looking forward to this podcasting. I had been so nervous for so long about actually doing a class with actual people, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the fighting aspect of it. I'm enjoying the fight IQ that I'm developing, that I'm really listening and paying attention to what's going on, because I think when you do things that scare you, it just puts your brain in a little heightened state and it kind of makes everything in your life better. And then lo and behold, there are the little miracles like your daughter, who is 27 years old, who's never seen a fireworks show on the day before the 4th of July, asked to see a fireworks show. And lo and behold, just by the grace of God, you've rented office space, which is perfect for what she wants. So transitions are things that, yes, they're nerve wracking to go through, but you may get those little taps on the shoulder from God, which say, yeah, I'm doing the right thing here. And so I'm encouraging you to just sort of pay attention, just listen. When you're looking to do something new, say to yourself, okay, am I getting taps on the shoulder from God that this is a good thing? Or, as happens sometimes, you get those taps on the shoulder which say, no, don't do this. Okay, so I'm not just telling you to do everything you set your mind to. Kind of be aware, kind of listen, kind of pay attention. What's going on here? Okay, so the other transition I want to talk about is, United States having its 250th birthday. Last night, July 4th, big celebration in Washington, D.C. And this is one of those little stories that I think encapsulates lessons for life. So 250 years of America since the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. And the Trump administration sets this huge party, the greatest fireworks show in history, and music, talk by Trump. Everything's supposed to be great. Well, sometimes things happen, like storms. So supposedly there were 375,000 people on the mall for this big event. Then came a storm with lightning, which made the Park Service say, okay, everybody needs to leave. So imagine that 375,000 people who have gathered for an event being told, yeah, get out of here. Well, what is great about President Trump is he just keeps going. So, yeah, the Park Service said people are going to need to leave for a couple hours. Well, Trump had a potential decision to make. He had the decision to make whether he should stay and plan to do a speech just when the storm had cleared. And so Trump, being Trump, he ain't going to run from the fight. He says, okay, I'll do it at 11 o'clock. I'll do it at 12 o'clock. I'll do it at 4 o'clock at night. But I'm delivering this speech. And so lo and behold, around 11 o'clock, Trump starts giving a speech. And at midnight, the wonderful fireworks show begins. And we see it before we leave to come here to watch the fireworks show on the West Coast. And so I say to you, transitions, life is about change. And so you're always going to be confronted with things that are changing. Also, you're going to have desires to be more than what you currently are. And so, but that's scary. I don't like change. I really like things to stay exactly the same. And so what I do with myself is I do a little trick, which is I say, this change is going to be great. And so I encourage you, as you are moving in to this 250th year of the existence of the United States, think about all the transitions that the United States has gone through, from a tiny country with 13 colonies to a superpower. And at every moment, Americans were worried about the changes. But what the American experience teaches us is that we need to go forward with faith, hope, and optimism. So, whatever the transitions in your life that you might be going through, embrace them with joy, with optimism. Keep yourself open to ideas that you might need to change some things, or maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe you don't want the transition, but keep yourself open to it. So I hope you have a great Sunday. I hope you have a great summer. And I hope you keep listening to this new phase of my life.